another one.
Do you like working with Scrum? What are the pros and cons for you? Well, if I didn't like working in Scrum, I probably shouldn't be doing Scrum nights every other weekend for my tech barbarians, as well as hosting a Scrum training in my Patreon this past Saturday evening. Let's put the timer up on the clock. All right. So let's get rid of that. And time. All right, cool. So I think, well, I don't think I love working in Scrum environment because here's why I love working in Scrum. Because you get to see instant progress like within a week to 2 weeks time. And working in Scrum allows you, and this is a pro to Scrum, right? It allows you to see instant feedback on a regular basis so you can know that you're going in the right direction, and the stakeholders that you're building the application for, they're able to also see your progress and give you immediate feedback. So when you ask the question, do you like working with Scrum and the pros and cons, it's the question is compared to what? What is it compared to? You need to, to like something, you need to have like, it's like, do you like pizza? Well, I could just not like pizza, but it could be, do you like pizza compared to ribs? And I'm like, I'll probably take the ribs, right? Or I'll probably take the steak. Do you like ribs compared to steak? I mean, I do like ribs, but compared to steak, no, I like the steak more, right? So with that being said, you have to compare Scrum to the other software development methods. And if you have Scrum versus, well, I'm not going to use Kanban because like although they're different, they are still within the Agile family. But if you have Scrum compared to Waterfall, right? Don't go chasing waterfalls because the waterfall method, it takes a very, very long time for the product to get developed. And then once it finally gets built, and then now you start testing way later, and then like it becomes outdated. If you look at how all pretty much all applications, like let's say applications in the app stores, how they're built, they are built in a like in an agile method. They have regular releases and they have like soft like if you look at let's take the Facebook app. If we look at the way that the Facebook app looked 10 years ago compared to the way it looks now, it looks totally different. It might have the same color scheme, but it's totally different in what it can do. YouTube, for instance, when did YouTube come out? Maybe like 2008, possibly. When YouTube, no, actually, I think YouTube came out. I think I posted my first video on YouTube in 2006. It was of a 1996 Honda Accord that my friend had you know what are they souped up, right? And if you look at the way that YouTube was back then to the way that it is now, like there was no live streaming on YouTube back then. So the iterations that you learn from the customer feedback and you build on top of that, that is one of the best things about Scrum is that like those iterations that you go over and over and over and over again. So and you're able to work within the team, learn from each other, get give recommendations. On Thursday nights, we have gone over the 12 principles of the Agile Manifesto and how it came about. So those fast iterations, like working software over like processes and documentation. And that's the goal that we have for when we're working in Agile and in Scrum. So what are some cons to Scrum? Well, it can be a bit meeting heavy, you know. So like sometimes we're like, oh, we could be like building the software, but although it can be meeting heavy, those meetings are super important to the progress of the team and to be working coherently. Other cons of, I mean, I'm sure there's cons to anything, but it's not something that I normally focus on. But I guess like when you don't meet your goal, it can be a bit off-putting to you because like for me and for instance, right, I'm a very competitive person, so I'm always looking to meet my goals. And the way that like that agile is set up, the way that Scrum is set up, it it makes you compete against yourself, right? It's tracking like the metrics, what they call the velocity, to say, okay, how did you do the previous sprint? Can you beat what you did the previous sprint? What kind of obstacles are going to be in the place? And it's always looking for 1% growth every single day, you know? So I tend to favor Scrum because it kind of matches my personality. Even when you see me doing like automation, I'm like, okay, let me get a quick win. Let me just make sure it opens up the browser. When I'm like doing software development, and I say, okay, I'm doing a test driven development because I get that instant feedback loop. So I was telling on a I think on the techniques tips stream the other day, I was saying like I even adopt the daily stand-ups into my own family so my wife and I can be on the same page on what we're working on. If I need something, if she needs something, and we can work together that way. So there's many pros if you can do Scrum the right way. You know, some people say, oh, like there's a thing that goes like, oh, because you're not doing it the right way. But it's true though. When you don't use a tool properly, then you're gonna find a bunch of frustrations with it. Because if I try to use a hammer as a screwdriver, I'm gonna say like, oh, this hammer doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work well as a screwdriver, but does it work well for knocking things into place? Why, certainly it does. All right. So hopefully that breakdown of the value of Scrum and why I absolutely adore working with Scrum helps. Okay.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.